flash Q someone.
Hey,
that is my point. We are going to see the Azir banned away. Kind of interesting. Like it makes a whole lot of sense into Faker, but we know that Zeka really likes it. And there is the tree ban. Another tree will then be banned, and maybe even Sejuani, we'll see. Shuriman theme.
Wow, okay.
Both of the forecasts from like 3 sets ago are going to be taken away.
Zeka just outing himself as not playing Garen because it doesn't have enough skill expression, Atlas.
Hey, that's another one that can flash Q.
Ooh.
You love to see it. Lily are going to be banned away here as well.
Wow, that's a big sign of respect shown here to Owner. And I'm with it. I do think it's very justified. As you highlighted, obviously, second tree going to get taken away here as well. The Vi is the remaining of the 3 picks that Peanut loves. The other one is the Sejuani, which is what I imagine Owner will go towards, especially if they go for the early Ashe. The Ashe is obviously still a flex pick. The only one that I think we've actually seen play at support recently was Beryl, but we know Keria can. It was like, what was it, like a 1 year period where he wasn't allowed to play it.
I mean, it's been banned against T1 very consistently, even this season, and I don't think it's because of Gumayushi. Even though he might be playing it here today, I think the flex potential is just so scary, like you've already mentioned. Owner, now, what is he going to be taking away here as LeBlanc slipping through the bans, and Faker goes back to one of his most famous champions before Azir kind of stole that thrown away. And Zeri being a consideration right now. I don't feel like Zeri gives me a whole lot of excitement, but Tristana feels like it's a little bit better maybe.
Tristana makes sense. We saw Chovy played yesterday as well.
Much better. There we go. The Ziggs locked away.
And to me, this is also a sign that we might be looking towards Hanwha lane swapping. Normally, I think the Ziggs is really fine in any scenario, but if you do end up playing into like Varus Ashe in the bot lane, that's one of the scenarios where I'd be a little worried. As Zeka going to pull out the Yone here. And now, the big question for me, so you can go for the Sejuani, which is great with the Ashe, but does lack the synergy with the LeBlanc. What we've mostly seen is the Viego, which is both picked as a counter pick into the Vi because you can cancel out the ults, and also is a really strong mid-jungle duo. When combined with the LeBlanc, leaves another, it doesn't look like they're going to go for jungle instead, putting faith in Owner's champion pool, and instead prioritizing the Braum here. So, really interesting. It does mean you get some more freedom in the bans because engage supports will just naturally lose a lot of their power when playing into Braum, but it does mean that maybe your mid-jungle not going to be quite as strong and you lose that flex potential.
I do also think that a lot of people are probably worried about the fact that Keria's Braum has not often been the most effective. Often Braum is used in a defensive manner. Keria has had a bit of a habit of trying to use it offensively, and it didn't quite work. Rel going to be taken away from Delight, though, makes a lot of sense. And we'll see what is going to follow here, as I imagine like something like a Leona to be taken away, something we've seen alongside the Ziggs many, many times. Poppy going to be removed from Owner, one of his best champions, and certainly can be a real menace. Also something that can be played towards the top side of the map if Zeus wants to as well, but doesn't really feel like his theme. There is Cassante taken off the board as well, so Doran not able to default back to that guy.
This is also setting up for the Zeus counter pick, which shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone that watched the previous series. Again, my expectation would be a Viego banner, but it's also possible. Viego hasn't really been that impressive that T1 or that Humble Life said, if he ends up playing it, we don't care. Looking at the Ziggs, though, one of the big things we always look at with Ziggs is how is your setup? It's going to be the Olaf instead. So Zeus, his pick that he pulled up with great success previously, going to get taken away. Between Vi and Yone alone, you already have so much setup available for big Ziggs plays. And one of the big issues that T1 is facing right now is that I think that their engage is really lackluster. And into Ziggs specifically, having that engage makes your life very, very hard, as it is blind cannon. Now, Zeus is the one guy that plays this in 2 ways, so I do think it's not as counterable as it otherwise might be, and it doesn't lock Owner to necessarily an AD champion, but I think the T1 comp feeling a little bit all over the place here. Wonder what's going to tie it all together here, Atlas.
I mean, it's obviously going to be a Sejuani. They have range in both of their solo lanes, so they love picking Sejuani when you can guarantee 0 permafrost synergy and value.
Yeah, the Freljord part of it is great. The top side part of the map is, as you point out, somewhat of a disaster.
Yeah, kind of. It's already making me upset, and it hasn't even happened yet. As Vladimir is being looked at right now. Now, I've said in the past that Viper is the best Vladimir in the LCK. It's going to be locked in. Doran is the one that's going to be playing it on the top side of the map into the cannon. One of the oldest cannon counter picks that has ever existed.
I have already seen a game, which was also from a Humble Life top laner, where he did in fact play in Challengers the Vladimir.
I remember that. I was like, what? Hasn't this recently happened?
Oh, it did.
And maybe they've been doing in-house scrims, and that's what sort of gave it away.
My boy
as that is
it.
Owner's Lee Sin. That's much better than Sejuani.
Yeah,
and that's Lee LeBlanc.
Yeah, that makes us a lot happier. But yeah, Rooster played it in Challengers. Unfortunately, didn't get the win. Very excited to see what it'll do here. I also am still not sure what Zayas is going to go, because I feel like into the AP variety, Vladimir is going to feel great. Into AD, that's a lot of extra consistent damage. Might be somewhat of a problem, but looking at the comp, T1, they're playing a comp. You have some team fighting power, you know, later in the game, if you can get a good cannon flank off and you can deny vision. But outside of that, this is designed to get as much shove in every single lane, be first to every objective, and whoever dares to even remotely approach is going to get picked. For Humble Life, it's a great team fighting comp. There is an incredible amount of setup, an incredible amount of 5v5 power, and if they are able to get the Ziggs out of lane and actually try and find plays around the map, we have seen how quickly you can accelerate games. So early game going to be absolutely pivotal here, Atlas.
And if we get a Hemo Plague with a Mega Inferno Bomb and everyone's charmed, I think everyone will instantly die on T1 side. It is just... That is a terrifying wombo combo to potentially come out, especially when you then can layer a Yone over the top of it and you've got Peanut to start the fight. I think that Humble Life Esports, this is exactly their bread and butter, but on the side of T1, early tempo, early control. It's bread and butter all over the place. We are having a lunch party here or something like that, Chronicle. It's going to be really exciting. Let's jump into the rip for game number 1.
소환사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
Now, you can see Doran here has gone for a very old skin on the Vladimir. I'm personally a little bit disappointed that he didn't go for Nosferatu, which is definitely the hipster choice. And now he's possibly going to die. But no, I don't think T1's going to be able to catch up in time. Carrier trying to get in range of a Winter's Bite. Instead, Doran is just going to make his Sanguine escape.
As we do see the PTA, so I do think that is confirmation. We'll have to see until we get the actual rune set up, but every time we have seen the PTA, it has just gone to the straight-up AD variety, which I like a lot more than what we've seen of the AP cannon. Obviously, the drawback is that you won't have as much impact with your ult later on, but you should have a lot more pressure in lane. T1 now has also gone for the invade, I think also to look for a potential lane swap. In case that does come through, was still the opportunity at this point. Obviously, no time for that. And also to keep a very close track of where Peanut is going to go, because I think Peanut, to me, has a really big task set for him, which is ensuring that T1 doesn't actually find too big of an early game lead here with this composition. Because when you look, I do think that the Ziggs and Rakan is a very stable lane, but it's not a lane that's going to be able to generate shove very easily. Same for the top side of the map. Mid, I think, is kind of dependent on how we see Faker perform on his LeBlanc, which historically, obviously, is... hasn't picked it yet in summer, but I don't think we need to tell anyone about Faker's LeBlanc. That has been done plenty of times before, and this is what I expect. A lot of early pressure to come out as...
Yep, sometimes you just press exhaust onto a Ziggs and walk it in. The exhaust is also going to be traded there, as Gumayushi is going to take a fair bit of damage also from the minions, as we can see. The Delight has already taken a whole lot. We're having a look now at the Ziggs win rate, and yeah, he's been doing pretty well here in the LCK for the playoffs. And Viper has already picked up 1 win on the champion. And I don't think this early laning phase is really all that...
yeah, there you go.
They're not too worried about it. As, yeah, Faker's LeBlanc is legendary. 269-206. That is not a bad scoreline to have on this champion.
And I'm pretty sure what we saw there is both Owner taking a pattern that we don't see too often anymore, which is free camp into back. But also, I'm pretty sure he's playing his own skin. As there we have...
Dudu versus Canna.
Nongshim Canna.
Yeah. That's a blast from the past right there. And also, the fact that it was Harmer Life Esports that played this last is very interesting. But of course, Dudu is now on Content Freaks. And so going to be a very different story there. If they can actually make this Vladimir work, though, it does add a string to their bow. Because, like, Viper in the Awesome Dude meta of quite a few years ago was definitely a phenomenal Vladimir player. And there has been a lot more, you know, mages being played in the bottom lane. So maybe it's going to be like an extra flex for Harmer Life. But we'll just have to see whether it actually works. Might just be tech into the cannon that we have seen already this season in Challenger, like you were talking about.
Could be a thing. Wonder when Zace is going to pick up the Wits End as well. That item in particular, I think, is just so insanely strong when playing into something like Vladimir. As Peanut has been able to just do his full clear. Owner gonna be spotted when he gets towards his Krug, but Owner has already gotten the back in, so he's sitting on just a longsword. Yeah, as you mentioned, particularly with the sustain you get from Doran's shield, as well as the very common setup that basically every mid-lane or melee and even a lot of AD carries running, like the Absorb Life, the Fleet Footwork. We know this gives you just a pretty unreasonable amount of sustain, and I think post 6 is where we're gonna expect to see a lot more aggression, although Zeka...
Yep, Chain is going to connect, good Q is going to come through there as Owner is gonna look to try and get it, but he is going to tank that turret a whole lot, and the shield comes in, and that's going to keep Zeka alive. Does have to use his flash, but you can see already T1's game plan is pretty well known.
I was expecting Faker to maybe try and go for a flash there. Not going to be the case. Zeka sustains through it. It's going to be a flash-for-flash trade. Still not the end of the world for T1. Owner doesn't have a lot of his camps up, so it is a relatively low-cost gank. Nicely done by Zeka to actually stay alive there. Damage just not enough. As we do see, as mentioned earlier, Owner is going to get spotted on the ward.
Yep, pretty cool skin there as well.
Yeah, as I mentioned. Yeah,
not bad.
Banky making a surprise appearance as well.
All right, well, Santa Braum is going to be going back. As we can see, Zeka, fresh off the back himself, is looking for a bit of harassment, but Faker is going to be able to dish back quite a bit. As the pool is going to come through there, some Tides of Blood coming out, and I'm just doing my very best to try and remember what Vladimir's abilities are called, and didn't do too badly. But you can see the trading is not as good, considering the fact that it is the AD cannon, but Lucidity Boots now picked up for Doran, and he's just going to happily scale until later into the game. We have seen, like, so many of these Vladimir builds have just been the most AP you can possibly build on a champion is the build path.
Yeah, we've seen things like the Cosmic Drive, very, very high. Just getting a death cap, like second item, very common. Yep. Rocket Belt, obviously, also the buffs that it received recently, where it got a ton of extra health, has made it a lot more desirable. And if you're Vladimir, that kind of does sound like a dream scenario, as we do have the trade coming through here, where the grubs are being taken by T1. We do have the light in the area, but with Cryo for top and mid, I don't think that they can get more than maybe a cheeky steal here for Peanut.
Yeah, Peanut is just going to walk in and sort of punch a little bit here, as Delight will throw the exhaust down onto Faker. He just pops back to his distortion and says thanks for the summoner spell, as T1 have managed to take all 3 of the first grubs. 4 minutes until we have an Infernal Drake on the Rift, meaning that Chemtech Soul's still going to be an opportunity here. We do know that Orcs is on the space right now, and so hopefully he's paying attention. We don't get that. Chemtech, so I imagine like Doran would be pretty happy with it.
I'm sure he'll keep it together.
Yeah.
We can trust him. Yeah, they're Delight making sure that he uses his exhaust optimally, so always have it on cooldown.
Yep,
so
that's
that
the thing.
You get the most uses out of it. Obviously, Viper's going to be completely fine here towards the bot side. The expectation with this Braum and Ashe lane is just that you have Cryo. Actually setting up dive, actually setting up plays is obviously a lot harder. The main thing for T1, I think, is his next dragon. Giving over the first dragon in of itself, not the end of the world, but you are looking ideally to turn that bot side and mid lane pressure as Zeka.
Yeah, he is going to get hit. There's the ulti. It is blocked, but does do a fair bit of work as the kick comes through. Chain going to come down, and now Peanut's looking for Owner. He's taking a lot of damage. Cease and desist comes in, and that's first blood to Peanut. And Faker now looking to try and get him, but the arrow is going to sail wide, and he says, top of the morning. Arrow will hit onto Doran. He goes into his pool eventually, but says that was rude. My goodness.
And that's a double, not even close from the Hanwha player.
Yeah, no, exactly. We planned this, is what they said.
Yeah. So, in the end, wonderful counter again coming through from Peanut, being able to again deny the play. Owner this time pays for it with his life. The damage threshold's just not quite enough to actually chew through this Yone. And not only that, but then the fact that Doran also just kind of shrugs it off because it's Vladimir. Very, very funny. Zeus also hasn't backed in a little bit, and obviously the offset of getting the on-hit build is that your ult doesn't actually chunk people nearly as much as it otherwise could. I'm going to see Guma just continuously apply pressure towards Viper here. One of the big things with the Ziggs that we've mentioned in passing is the teleport being there. As we take another look here, so this is, I think, all things considered well done. They're able to deny him the ult exit. The problem is that Owner doesn't really have a great angle to try and kick him back, which in turn sets up the play. And Pina plays it very cleanly, gets the flash Q, is able to then follow up with the ultimate and ensure that he doesn't get hit. And look at the Delight also coming in there. So even if you want to go a little bit more aggressive onto Pina there wasn't really an opportunity there. That's a big cancel.
Yeah, Mega Inferno Bomb comes down as well as Gumayushi. It looked like he took no damage, but Barrier was used, and that ate perfectly the damage of the Mega Inferno Bomb, made it look like a spectator error. That was very weird and very cool. The interaction, so they get a summon a spell in trade for an ultimate, and they also delay the back of Guma.
Yeah, I forgot some other AD carry did this at the Ziggs as well, and I'm like, man, that was clean timing. We should think of a name for that. You know, it's like the same as a Captain Jack, where you barrier so cleanly that it looks like you don't take damage.
Or maybe we can call it Captain Barry.
Lock it in, Atlas!
Hell
Captain Barry it is!
That was a beautiful Captain Barry there from Gumayushi. Not entirely sure who Barry is, but let us know who you think Barry is. If
we're watching live, you're bearing witness to the birth of a new meme right here, right now. Captain Barry there from Guma. Right now, next set of objectives is coming up. 10 seconds to the Infernal Drake. Zeka has cheated down.
Look to ult out this time. The arrow comes through once again, and Zeka is able to avoid it. The kicks not necessarily hitting here from Ona so far, as T1 still offering a lot of pressure. And you can see they're able to keep up in gold, but this is not the kind of early game tempo advantage I was expecting out of this composition, as Ona is going to look to start off Dragon number 2. And that will mean that both teams trading the first couple of Dragons and the Grubs.
I wonder if Doran is going to be in time. So what they did here is they swapped Viper towards top to ensure that they get the Grubs. I think they're a little bit late on this. We'll see. I don't think they're going to get this, but maybe they get the fight.
Yeah, that's a teleport to come in as now Doran throws down the Hemo Plague. Tides of Blood coming out. They put up the door, and that will interrupt Delight, trying to make his way in with the quickness. And so successful disengage here as Viper looking to try and take down some plates in mid lane, and Ziggs doing exactly what he wants to do.
That was really cool, if not for the fact that Doran doesn't actually have damage yet, so it didn't really do that much. If that's a 2-item Vladimir, that would have been a very scary moment, but with Keria there, nothing to really be worried about. As Zeus, I was about to say, particularly because I think it was last patch, maybe the patch before, where they changed Witsend to be a better early item, made the damage curve, I think, a little bit smoother, so early on you get more power out of the on-hit magic damage. It's amazing. He is now playing into Zeka, which is not where he wants to be for obvious reasons with his itemization, but still going to get a lot of value out of that. And the Drake is taken here, but on my life, I don't think they ended up paying too much. Ended up throwing away a teleport, which isn't the end of the world. Doran is still able to catch the bot side wave. And we do have Mountain, which I think for both teams, it's best if you don't give it to the opponent, because they're both very bursty. T1's, I'd say, is more reliant on actually like getting an initial pick. But even for Hanwha, you know, getting your Ziggs poke to land is a lot worse. Getting Peanut to get a lot of value out of the ultimate is going to be a lot worse. So these Dragons are going to be a really big fighting point here.
Yeah, I actually think that if anyone's able to get a Mountain Soul, it's just game over for the enemy team. So I love that. I actually think that it will promote a lot of fighting in this series. So if you are maybe someone that is, leveling on your other screen or something like that while you watch, perhaps don't heal in dungeons because you will get distracted and people will die. Okay, there's a Hemoplague just to try and stop this dive from occurring. Zeka also teleporting down. Will be a couple of plates falling on this bottom side, but now Viper is going to get a full turret, guys.
Yeah, that's a massive win for Hanwha Life, because yes, you trade flash for flash, but that doesn't really matter. Hanwha Life, so they overloaded the top half of the map there with the express intention as, Viper, he is low and doesn't have satchel.
Yeah, it's the flash forward from Faker. Viper is going to flash away, and now Peanut is just trying to play interference. Mega Inferno Bomb comes down, but Faker is not going to die to that one and is now looking for Peanut, possibly. Vault Breaker should be able to keep him alive here, and the interruption is gorgeous from Peanut. Avoids the Q there as well, and is now thinking that he fancies the 1v1. But T1 in the mid lane are still being able to take more, and this is the kind of mid-game moves we expect from this team, able to extract a lot from the map.
But still worth for Hanwha, like even with giving over the kill. Unfortunate that Viper ends up dying. But so they overloaded the top half of the map, which prompted T1 to teleport towards bot and try to force a dive. And trying to dive with Vladimir, if you haven't before, it's a nightmare scenario between the sustain and everything. And even with this kill going over, you trade TP for TP, you negate the bot side dive, and you get the first turret blood. If they gotten Peanut as well, I think it would have been a little bit better. But the fact that, holds the Q, that he can cancel Owner's Q damage, and even if Owner hits that final Q, wouldn't have made a difference. And T1, all these mid-jungle plays not actually working out due to Peanut and Zeka's ability to just eat these ganks and eat these plays consistently, has now meant that the necessary lead for T1 really isn't anywhere to be found. And I don't think that it's lights out just yet, but they need to stack these dragons. It's no longer negotiable, and it's so hard to do anything into this Vladimir.
Yeah, they really want to kill Doran, and another Hemoplague is just going to be employed here on the bottom side of the map to get rid of these minions, and that is going to be successful. Still, this turret is not long for the world. T1 should be able to take that one down relatively soon. That'll even out the gold exceptionally well. But 15 minutes on the clock. Ziggs does manage to get a full turret before the plates fall down. That is kind of par for the course. That's kind of what you want to see. We have seen other Ziggs who's not quite managed to do so, and that makes Orcs disappointed. So thankfully, Viper has done a decent job, as Owner doesn't quite find the Q onto Delight here, who's been pretty quiet so far this game. I think it's been the Peanut show, and he is going to take Shelly and put her down here in this mid lane. See whether they can get it into satchel range, as Zeka does find a nice knock-up onto Carrier. There is the charge. Quite satchel range just yet, but only needs like one short fuse, and then he can just destroy that turret. So mid-outer is also not long for the world here on T1's side of the map, which could really open things up for Hanwha Life Esports.
So there is the early Cosmic Drive that we're talking about. And I'm obviously really gone into Vladimir, gives him everything he wants, health, AP, and the ability to actually be on top of his targets.
Yep, the walk fast is pretty handy.
Very, very important. Hanwha Life, again, I think they're very happy with this game going late. Not because I think they skill better by definition, but at some point Ziggs just becomes such an insane nuisance, and range advantage to me is really the biggest advantage that Hanwha Life have over T1. In side lane, something like Zace's cannon might become a problem to deal with, but you have the lockdown to deal with Faker in this with this Vi. As mid lane turret falls before Viper's might on this Ziggs, unsurprising. In T1, yeah, they get the dragon, but you feel a lot better about this if that was the Soul Dragon. Now it's okay, but it still doesn't really get you the pressure that ideally you'd have. Gold though dead even, and we see this as well. Items pretty much parity here between most of the members.
Another arrow going to go wide here, as it does hit Peanut. And so Guma has, thrown out quite a few of these. His hit rate much higher.
It's great.
But not on his intended target the majority of the time.
But maybe that's what he wants you to.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking as well.
No,
really?
No, I was
okay. So
joking. I feel like I need to clarify it in case people think I wasn't joking. Want to highlight the Seraph's now done for Viper as well. This is one of those scenarios where you actually do get a ton of value because T1 is a big comp, right? Very upfront, a lot of burst. So the Seraph's actually helps you get out of situations where otherwise you might not be.
And there's, in theory, a Mountain Soul on the table as well. And
oh, yeah.
I just don't want to think about all of those extra resistances, plus an extra shield, and then the other shield that you also have. That is a lot of effective health that even a little Ziggs is going to have.
What is big here for me is how well Hanwha Life are able to keep control of the map, right? Mid lane turret, still, what, like 55, 60% health, feeling great in that regard. Vision lines haven't been pushed back. And T1's composition, I think, relies a lot more on denying information than Hanwha Life's does. Hanwha Life have guaranteed ways of engaging with Zeka's ultimate, as well as with the Rakan and the Vi. Really, they're basically every champion on their team can engage if you're optimistic enough. Even Viper can just satchel people in.
Hey, there we go. We'll hope that he doesn't do that, because
really
that makes Orcs upset if you use your satchel
and then they immediately die.
I've learned a lot about Ziggs over this season, thanks to Orcs. But yeah, so don't do that. He needs to be able to keep that there to keep him alive. His teleport towards the top side of the map. T1 just going to move on over and look to try and take down that outer turret. A pesky Vladimir, the Hemomancer, sitting underneath that one. Yeah, might be a bit of a problem, as well as Peanut, who has moved on in. And so T1 still not fully committing to this play just yet.
They really want to get the turrets, right? Because
nice
again,
to deny the cannon as well.
Yeah, if you're playing a pick composition, taking away enemy turrets so that they have a lot less room to try and make plays and walk up into fog without being able to retreat to the turret is really big. So I can see Hanwha Life actually holding onto them very, very tightly. Looks like Doran is going for either Void Staff or Cripplum second, which I do appreciate, because that's where we see the biggest individual gap thus far in this game. When it comes to CS, when it comes to gold, Zeus being able to pull ahead. Because again, you're playing Vladimir into Wits and Rush on him.
Yeah.
It's not great, Atlas. And I imagine he's going to go after the Trife, he's going to go Terminus. And then between that and his ultimate, he's going to have a completely unreasonable amount of MR. And there's a Mountainous. Oh, Faker, I think he knows this is risky. Vi has the lockdown. Peanut's waiting.
Pops back to his distortion. Now that's on cooldown. Gets back to the other one as well. Underneath the turret they go. But the ulti flies through. The arrow is going to connect. And that is Peanut taken down. Delight comes in to finish the job. And they go 1 for 1. But the turret is going to fall on the top side. T1 taking more.
And Faker able to drag him back. Peanut not able to set up for the Ziggs. That would have been an early kill. Very, very cleanly done. His owner.
He's just dead here underneath this turret. Will get knocked up by Zeka's Q. That's nicely done there, but a little bit out of place was the Lee Sin.
Yeah, it's easy to forget because we haven't seen Zeka do this as much, but he is the melee mid guy.
He is the Yone guy.
Yeah, that is what he does. As many of us will remember, if you were watching in 2022.
Yeah, this season he's been more like the Corky guy, and he doesn't die very much and then does okay in team fights. It's been a subdued season for Zeka. Even though he's played very, very well, he hasn't been the main character. We have a look at this once again.
He's Gene's Atlas. I'll get into that later. But as we see here, Faker being able to pull back, denies the damage, and then simultaneously means that Peanut is taking a lot more damage from the turret. And then Owner thinks that he can stick around because he's Lee and he has Flash, but yeah, he can't. Tries to trade back with the exhaust. There's no way in hell the Light is ever dying there, and probably should have just sacked, because if he just backs off, can even rotate towards mid, maybe they'll finally get that pesky mid lane turret. But I'm telling you, Atlas, the Ziggs pick to me, I feel like it needs to be even higher in priority, because
I think it needs to be first round of bans every time.
It used to be one of those picks that was picked and then teams didn't use it well, and now I feel like they are. Like, they're using the infinite wave clear. They're using the ability to just take side lane turrets at a moment's notice, and this is a big fight right here. Possible soul point for T1, and otherwise Hanwha Life sitting peachy.
Does it feel like do or die? Because I'm starting to get that vibe, as right now T1 collapsing onto this dragon. Doran trying to keep himself alive here in this side lane as Peanut off to the side as well. Viper wants to find an angle to get that bomb down, and let's see whether Delight can layer through that ulti. Teleports come in from the Vladimir as the Dragon's down to sub 50%. T1 feeling a little bit dicey about this play, considering the fact that it's a 5-stack of Hanwha Life esports players. They do manage to take down Hemo. Play comes in. The ulti from Zeka is gigantic, and everyone explodes. Maker's still alive. Zeus trying to do what he can, but he will just be popped. They get rid of Viper once again. Faker gets his second kill on him, but he's the last man standing.
It's the Wombo combo dream, Atlas, as Hanwha Life All those ultimate buttons synced up perfectly. And they just completely blow out T1. If T1 would have gotten the Dragon, that could have been the one thing that they didn't even get that. It was Viper that got, I think it was down to like 5 health there. Owner had the Q, I think tried to maybe get back. But instead, looks like Life have taken the decisive lead here in this game, #1. And oh man, again.
Oh, the arrow splash damage for the takedown. Yeah, not going to happen. Not this time. And that is going to be the Baron secured here by Life Esports.
Look at
already in position to defend that turret there as well. As we have a look at this fight one more time, this was gorgeous.
Oh yeah, there you go. Peanut sets it up. And then Zeka with the ultimate. On top. That's the end of it. Like, you know, like they didn't even really need the light to keep. The fight was already won. Just through those 2 ultimates. And even though Viper goes down, who cares? He's done his job, right? Like, he's drawn a lot of the pressure. He pressed his R button when Hanwha did. And this is what we were talking about, why T1 needed to get the early game lead that wasn't found because of the play from Peanut and Zeka. It's because if they don't, and you get into team fights on even footing, it's not great.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people say that Vi is a pretty binary champion. Peanut got like double knockbacks and secured the ulti on exactly the right play. We saw already using that Vault Breaker to interrupt things. Like, he is having a day out here today on the Vi. And I think that might have been that straw, you know, that we talk about when it comes to the backs of camels.
Oh, yeah.
Because Life Esports with this Baron are pushing down this inner turret on the top side. And with Baron, it's a Ziggs. And he just mows everything down. He's a demolitionist.
And T1, yeah, the composition relies on denying vision. They're not having any.
Horizon Focus is pretty good at getting vision, isn't it?
Also, just
okay. Doran is
Vladimir.
Gonna press pull.
Yeah, it's Vladimir.
Oh, it's a pull party Ziggs, and he's got a pull ability. Isn't that cool? The Sanguine pull. Is it a Sanguine pull party that Viper's having?
Is it also Zeka on the pull party Yone?
Oh, I don't know.
That could be even better, Atlas.
He does look... I think he did have some beach vibes, if I remember. That he's in a side lane right now. We are going to see that Faker is looking to try and deny this take on the inner turret, but it's not going to happen. Another pull going to come forward. There's a Mega Inferno Bomb. So much damage as Kumiushi is just eviscerated. There goes Owner as well, and the ulti comes through from Zeka. Oh my goodness. He does turn up. He's like, is there a beach party happening? And they're going to find it. Delight just whips that one completely, but I don't think Peanut's going to go down. Once again, tips the hat as the blast cone is going to get Faker to safety. And Life Esports really, like 6,000 gold is now their lead. And they're looking to try and break open the base here at 25 minutes.
Yeah, this is where you start discussing the next game, Atlas. And I think this one is pretty textbook, right? Coming out of draft, we knew T1 had to use the mid jungle. I don't even feel like it was misplays early on that like Owner and Faker did actually try repeatedly to make the plays work, but Life just read them like a book. Zeka is deathless, by the way. He got ganked like 15 times.
Yep. I think Zeka has had an incredible game.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that, like, if the POG goes to Peanut, I think that's okay. Okay, we're going to get a bit of an interrupt here on to Delight, who is pretty tanky, to be perfectly honest, looking for some cooldowns. Is now Peanut setting up for it, and T1 realizing that they cannot go too far.
So Zeka is Jeans, right? Like, I kind of... Because this fight...
Right, yeah, okay.
I want to get into this, but this is the combo we're talking about. Hemo Plague, Violence.
I mean, Braum doesn't do anything either when it's Mega Inferno Bomb Hemo Plague. Like, you can't door those.
No, you can't. So they're such an important part of a wardrobe, and they're so understated. But having great genes, it makes you feel wonderful.
It really does,
right? It's usable in so many different situations.
You can dress it up, dress it down. Yeah.
Sure, it might not be the standout of your outfit, but you know it's an important part.
It absolutely is.
In a situation like this, just denim and a white T-shirt. Peanut's the white tee. Zeka's.
He's a G.
He's playing Vi. That's as white T-shirt as it gets, but it just works.
And what's Doran? He's like, is he like the shirt that you wear, the Hawaiian shirt that you wear over the white T-shirt? Yeah.
He's like, I don't know, pick your accessory of choice.
Sunglasses or something like that.
The sunnies, a watch.
Yeah.
Maybe some, you know, an understated
What's the hat
chain.
that Brolaf wears? Maybe that's Doran. As, all right, Mega Inferno Bomb, just get rid of the minion wave. It is not going to be enough to save this turret. And I think, yeah, Doran might also be dead. The kick does come back, and that chain CCs the Vladimir. A bit of an opportunity here as Humble Life Esports are taking a fair bit on the other side of the map, as Faker kind of outplaying Zeka here, but he just bounces back. And T1 being able to find some angles and also getting some bounty gold. They're not out of it just yet.
Accessorize responsibly, Atlas.
Yeah,
Doran does get caught. These side lane picks, in of itself, obviously not going to be the main difference maker. Main thing is what can they get out of it. And unfortunately, an inner is good, but when you're sitting at a deficit like this, it isn't really that much in the grand scheme of things. And even though Faker does get the outplay, he has to invest his flash. So like he doesn't die, but Zeka doesn't die either, and now Faker doesn't have flash. So
yeah. Still, they managed to hold on to their turret.
Yeah, but they also lost Dragon while the Peanut was just minding his own business and taking Dragon.
Yeah, he's, I feel like Peanut has decided business today.
Yeah.
You know, we were having a conversation earlier on, and I was even talking to Sunke about it earlier. I think this series all comes down to which Peanut we get. And I think that we've gotten the Peanut that really wants to win. And I think if you're a T1 fan, that is a worrying sign, because when he's on, he's really, really on. And we're going to check him out right now. I may have just cursed him, so we'll just have to keep an eye on what he's going to do next.
Do you want to say something good about Zeus?
All right.
That's such a good game. Only died once.
Yeah, he is also killing it in a turret. It's really cool.
Bounty gold!
He's now really dead, but he did do his job. And they're just not going to waste any cooldowns on him. Did do a fair bit of damage to Zeka, but he is going to be able to get all that back. Infinity Edge now in hand for the Yone. 2-0-6. And yeah.
So
Baron's up.
My favorite part of this is that Humble Life, like, they're not even afraid. They're actually going to start Baron. Like, they're not afraid of the crossmap because look at their vision.
Yeah.
They know everything that's happening. They can invest a bunch of people to kill an annoying Yordle inside.
They have a Ziggs, who's got a teleport flank happening here as well. Carrier in a fair bit of trouble. Let's see whether Owner can actually make this one happen.
That could make it extend. There's a bounty as well.
Yep, in goes Peanut. They're looking for the fight. Mega Inferno Bomb comes down. They lock up the Ashe, and they just had a Freljordian bounty out, I guess, on both of them. As now Faker's in trouble. He is just dead. I think that is Hemoplague will be able to finish. Never mind.
Okay, secret
Chains up
agent
some of
Owner.
these. Yeah, Owner is just looking to try and get it done.
Okay.
Zeka is 1v1ing the Baron.
They still don't know.
Faker is Alcove Gaming, looking to try and get himself out.
They don't know.
It's going to be Viper that locks up that. Sorry, it's Delight that locks up.
It's the loop gone.
This is super weird. I have no idea what's going on here. He's looped around forever. He's looking for the angle, but he gives away his position. And now they're going to try and get him out of there. The knockup does come on through. The Ziggs locks up the kill. Zeus is not able to take down the Baron, and this game is over, ladies and gentlemen.
Owner just sitting in that brush as his entire team gets massacred. Like, guys, if I can steal
it was like
it'll be
Galaxy
worth it.
Brain confusion over and over again. And it turned into a little bit of a confusing outcome there as T1, they had to throw a Hail Mary. It did not connect, and Humble Life Esports are looking to take down game number 1.
Absolute masterclass from the mid-jungle duo from Humble Life here. Able to detect every single early play. And again, I know he wasn't the main character, but that Zig pick, we got to look after it because it feels like it also allows Zeka to just pick Yone like this.
Yeah, and he went 4-0-10, and he was the one focused in the early game.
15 ganks, Atlas.
I know, it's absolutely absurd. I think Humble Life Esports really came to play here today. It was blue side that they did have T1 now with a lot more flexibility moving into game number 2, but because Humble Life Esports start on blue, then they're going to have to break the serve, right? And so T1, a difficult task ahead of them here, and we'll see whether they can keep themselves in the series after this next one. But Humble Life, I think when I see Peanut play like that, it really makes you worry for the opposition because this is a Humble Life Esports that are very, very scary.
T1 trying to go for a pick composition, just didn't end up working out. There were some parts of the drop. I actually feel like the on-hit cannon, that kind of did what it needed to. Got a lead, but the mid-jungle not getting anything in the early game just ended up being too big of a detriment. And the priority on Ashe and Braum when you know that Hanwha Life are probably going to play dive, and Ziggs is there, it doesn't inspire confidence. We're going to have to see a big swap up here, because otherwise, Hanwha Life is going to run them over, Atlas.
They certainly could. I think that there are definitely some things you can look at that can be adjusted, and yes, I think our eyes are glued to the Braum. That it is now time for us to take a short break. When we get back, it is going to be the Space breaking down that game number 1. Zeka's parents here, or at least Zeka's mom is in the audience, giving him a whole lot of extra power. Let's see whether it works as we head to the break, and then we'll see the Space immediately after.
플래시 풀 있나?
풀 있다. 나 그냥 공 20초.
앞으로 질러도 돼. 사도 되거든. 나공 10초. 10초.
내가 스택 쌓아서 볼게. 나 풀 돼. 공 되니까 막
일단
반대로
폭탄 때려봐.
막아줘.
블라디나 스틱스.
공 11초.
나클 먼저 하고 르블랑 10초.
그럼 때릴 거다. 애쉬 넣어. 야, 공
애쉬
5초.
준비.
애쉬 봐.
애쉬 노플.
야, 타워 쳐봐.
브라운
가지만.
애쉬 노플.
타워. 나 공 되는데.
블랑 노플이야.
타워 좀 칠게.
홍방어 좀.